taken the cycling world by storm over the last few years. We just had our first national championships. It has challenging terrain, long distances, unpredictable weather, unpredictable circumstances. But beyond the physical challenge, there lies a hidden battle that makes gravel racing so uniquely demanding, and that's the mental game. I've been working on mental toughness strategies for years and now make that an integral part of my coaching. So today, we're talking about gravel racing and mental toughness. Welcome to Simple Endurance Coaching's Unleash Your Everyday Athlete video podcast. I'm Paul Worlowski, head coach and owner of Simple Endurance Coaching. And each week we talk about one thing that seems to be working for everyday cyclists and runners to empower ordinary people like you to achieve extraordinary fitness and performance. Subscribe to the podcast and sign up on the website simpleendurancecoaching.com for a free core strength and stability video. Here's this week's podcast. What makes gravel racing so mentally challenging? Gravel racing has got so many things that make it mentally challenging. There's the constant uncertainty of the surface and what you're riding on and whether your bike can handle it and whether your brain can handle it. There's that certain discomfort that happens. You're bouncing along on the roads, and it's a fatiguing kind of battle with your shoulders and your hands and your arms and your legs and just continuing to go fast. Because you're riding for so long, there's that mental and physical fatigue that happens. No matter how positive you are, no matter how upbeat you are and how much you're having fun, it's gonna drain on you. There's also a sense of fear. I remember several races that I've done where I've had downhills in rocks that freaked me out, and there's overcoming fear. There's been several races that I've done where I remember very clearly the feeling that I had of having to go downhill in big rocks and knowing that if I crash, it's really going to hurt. And not something that I want. So there's that fear that I have. And finally, there's simply the long distance. You don't need to do the 200-mile rides or even the 100 miles, even the 50 miles. They can be long days on the saddle. And that kind of length and that kind of distance and that kind of continual effort can be really mentally challenging. What are good mental toughness tactics to prepare for a gravel race? So here are a couple of good skills that you might practice during training to make you more ready for racing. Visualization is probably the biggest. If you are able to visualize two kind of big areas, one is the actual riding that you're doing, that you're seeing yourself taking good lines, that I can see myself going down that rocky descent and being just fine. And using the skills that I have, but also to visualize yourself being calm when there's a mishap. If you get a flat tire, if you do crash, if there is really thick mud that sucks your wheels in, how do you handle that? You can visualize yourself being in those situations and simply being calm and dealing with them. In your preparation and in your training, setting goals and using periodization are really effective ways of creating some mental health, not even mental health, more mental strength and mental toughness, because you have a specific goal to accomplish. You have, today I am doing strength training to get myself stronger for this event. Maintaining a positive mindset, it's not pie in the sky, but it's also not something that's going to happen the entire race. There have been times where I've been doing a race where I feel miserable, but it's those moments where you have to find, okay, what am I going to focus on? You have to do that reframing, and we'll talk more about that as we go. During training, it's also important to practice some mindfulness. in staying present in the moment. I have, breathe on one arm and pedal is going to go on the other arm. And just using those two words, for example, help me stay in the present. I'm pedaling my bike. Pedal, pedal, pedal. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then I start to calm down because I'm just focusing on those moments. In training, it's also important to embrace some discomfort because those long gravel races are going to get uncomfortable at different times. And so in training, both in your distance and duration and the kind of work that you are doing in those, it's good to feel that discomfort, to get a sense of, this is what's here. This is not comfortable, but I've trained, I've practiced this, I know this, and I know how to get rid of it. What does the research say about building mental toughness for cycling? There's a lot of research about mental toughness for cycling, not so much specifically for gravel, but for cycling. If you are able, one study says, to develop a sense of mental toughness, you are more likely to perform well under pressure and to maintain focus during challenging situations. I have definitely found that the more I practice this kind of mental toughness, especially with visualization, and especially for me being in the ADHD boy, of going back to my arm. That's why it's tattooed on my arm, is just to breathe and just to come back to that breath and continue to be as mindful as possible. Another study found that cyclists who engaged in mental skills such as visualization and positive self-talk, not like you dumbass or whatever it might be, but hey, you cleared that well, or nice job, or finding a place to laugh, they experienced improved performance and increased confidence. Another research study showed that by embracing that discomfort as a normal part of this, like instead of saying, oh my God, this hurts, and being all dramatic about it, saying, oh yeah, here we go. I remember this. I trained for this. I did this. I did the kind of training that made me uncomfortable. And now discomfort is part of my experience. I understand it. So therefore, those athletes are able to push through those physical barriers and achieve their goals. There's been a lot of research about practicing mindfulness and about, practicing the breathing, practicing meditation, which I can't do because I can't stay focused that long. But these can really help cyclists stay present in the moment and manage negative thoughts, because that can creep in and definitely distract us from the job because we start thinking all the bad things that are going to happen, and sometimes that makes them happen. Another important finding from research is that setting specific goals, especially during your training, can enhance mental toughness. Breaking the race up into 5-mile blocks, breaking it into here's the race to the rest stop, and then I'm going to take care of myself, and then there's the race to the next rest stop, and so that there's always a task at hand, and that can keep you focused and mentally tough. Traditional kind of mental toughness techniques, such as imagery that we've talked about, but also self-affirmations. There's been that joke about, I'm Stuart Smalley from a Saturday Night Live. If you're too young to remember that, go check him out. But gosh darn it, people like me. And it was made fun of, but it actually does work, that you're simply repeating that I got this, I can manage this, I have trained for this, I have prepared for this. Setting the goals, focusing on the process. If you have a goal that you're going to finish in the top 50 in Unbound and you finish 51st, does that mean that your race was wasted? It's like, absolutely not. You still finished 51st at Unbound. That's amazing. So focus on process goals. I am going to do the best that I can. I'm going to prepare completely so that I know what's happening. How can mental skills from sports help our everyday lives? So the best part about practicing these mental skills is that they can help our everyday lives, setting goals, visualization, developing a sense of resilience so that when things go wrong, and things go wrong all the time, they never go the way that we dream about them because that's not reality. Having that sense of resilience and toughness so that when things do go wrong, you can handle it because you can. Discipline and time management skills are huge. We have a limited amount of training time as everyday athletes, and we need to be able to manage our time so that we can get our training in. We need to be able to figure out when to get up, when to train, when to eat, when we should be recovering. That all takes discipline because some days embracing that discomfort is not something we want to do. We know what's coming. We know those intervals are going to hurt. It's like, oh, for God's sake, I don't want to do this, but the discipline makes us get out there and do it. So how is gravel racing an opportunity for mental toughness training? Here are several ways that gravel racing can be actually an opportunity for mental toughness training. Number one, it gives us the opportunity to confront our fears and step out of our comfort zones. Gravel racing can test our ability to adapt quickly to changing conditions, overcome unexpected obstacles. So if I know that downhill is coming, and I know that there's rocks in it, and I know that that's something that freaks me out because I don't want to crash and break anything, what can I do to confront that particular fear? That is mental toughness. That is the ability to stay focused under pressure, to embrace the discomfort, and to continue through adversity. Number two is maintaining a positive mindset throughout the race. If I'm going to tell you, or if someone tells you that in a 4-hour race you're going to have a positive mindset the entire time, they're dreaming. It's not going to happen. However, when those negative thoughts do come up, when you start thinking about things because, oh my God, my butt is so tired or so sore, and there's that spot that's starting to rub. You know what I'm talking about. That's the opportunity to reframe those negative thoughts. That's the opportunity to change your thinking into more constructive thinking. So instead of dwelling on your fatigue or the doubt, remind yourself of why you love this in the first place. Remind yourself that the challenge of pushing your boundaries, exploring new landscapes, simply enjoying the time outside with a bunch of other crazy people who are doing the same stupid thing that you are doing, that's amazing. That is amazing. And that's the kind of experience that we're looking for. That is a growth mindset of being able to turn the dial so that you're no longer focusing on your negative thoughts, but that you are focusing on positive thinking and reframing your thinking. Number three is visualization. We've talked a lot about that, both for visualizing yourself riding confidently through challenging terrain, like me going down those hills, but also rehearsing scenarios. When you get a flat tire, what do? Just calmly finding the plug, finding a tube, finding whatever you need to do to get yourself back in the race. Then you'll be better able to handle the challenges that come up in a race. And likewise, calmly managing setbacks. Flat tires happen, mechanical issues, moments when we feel like there's no way I've got another 40 miles in us. Rather than think about those moments, rather than think about how you're negatively feeling, that's the time to develop that resilience and the problem-solving skills to figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to manage it, staying calm and purposeful. Thank you for watching this edition of the Simple Endurance Coaching video podcast, Unleash Your Everyday Athlete. I am Paul Werlowski, head coach and owner of Simple Endurance Coaching, and each week we talk about one thing that seems to be working for everyday cyclists and runners to empower ordinary people to achieve extraordinary fitness and performance. Find this full article on my blog linked in the notes and get a free copy of my training video, Core Strength and Stability, when you opt in to receive weekly articles in the newsletter, Unleash the Everyday Athlete. Sign up below for virtual coffee, so if you want to talk more about your goals, ask questions, and talk about making your endurance training more effective, fun, and simple with a capital S. Thanks, and I'll see you out in the road.